Well, hello there, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, but um, there's been a lot of reasons why I haven't been able to film. I did get a new phone, but it didn't work with any of my current phone holders, so I finally got a new phone holder, and I think this is going to be good. So what I thought I would do is share with you my projects I've been working on this past winter and spring, and the fabric haul, and talk about some future classes I have coming up. So what you can't see is everything that's beside these two piles. It goes that way and that way, a long way. So let me clear a space and I'll get back to you in a minute, and actually I'll get back to you in a few seconds, won't I? And I'll show you what I've been up to. All right, sorry if there's any shaking going on. This camera holder, it works, but it's finicky. So I started to work with wool applique, and so I found this free pattern in a Facebook group, and I thought it was really fun. I did this in an afternoon because, let's see if I can get this in shot. I was able to finish this in an afternoon because it was pretty simple. I had all the wool and all the threads, and it's not in all the colors that was suggested in the pattern, but I made it work with what I had. I tend to do that a lot. If I don't have the exact item, I'm okay. I just keep on going with what I do have. Then I have been taking some or watching some videos from a creator. I'm not even going to attempt her name. It's Dutch, and if you know this stitch, the honeycomb blanket stitch, you'll know who I'm talking about. I'll make sure to put a link in the description box below. But I started doing this honeycomb blanket stitch, and I found this old doily in my stash, and I thought, oh, what a great surface to stitch on. So I started that. I have a few completed pieces, so I've done my typical bird, I don't know what we call these, bird art. I don't know, it's stitched. It's lots of stitching and fabric and some swans. I think we're calling them swans. A lot of fun just trying out new stitches. And right before Easter, I stitched up this little bunny because I just thought this was so cool. And bunnies were inspiring me in March, so I had a couple of pieces reflect that. This is actually an old piece from last year that I started, and then I finished it this year. So I added it to a piece of already quilted fabric, and I just trimmed everything and put it in place. So that's just, I don't even know, I don't have any name for this. It was just freeform slow stitch art, textile art. This was part of a challenge I did where it was supposed to be a feather. Maybe if I turned it the right way. Anyways, I went with more of like a leaf design and tried a whole bunch of stitches in different colors and threads. So that was kind of fun. Again, the honeycomb blanket stitch starts in the center and then you work your way out. Been having fun with that stitch. Here's my spring hare gazing at the moon. So like I said, the bunnies were inspiring to me this spring. I've never been inspired by a rabbit before, so I don't know what I saw, but something intrigued me. So this was another doily that I stitched onto. So I stitched the doily down to some muslin, and then I found a stencil and did my leaping hare, leaping rabbit. And there was already a lot of stitching in this doily, but I just added to it with some back stitching and running stitch, and then I added this whole little bit of flowers. Hope the lighting's good. This little bit of flower kind of thing at the bottom, and that was just yeah, fun. It's a way to it's a sample for a class I hope to be holding in the near future on what to do with those old doilies that you don't want to throw away. This one had a few stains and tears that I strategically covered with stitching and fabric. It's another one of my little 5-inch squares that I stitched, and again, it was just working with the fabric that I had in the background and just doing a lot of stitching. This was part of the challenge with cloth tails, K3N cloth tails. It was about the backstory, but I worked on this and then a few others that I'll show you next for a class that's coming up in May that I'm holding. It's embellishing with embroidery is what it's called, and basically we're going to choose from fabrics, which I have a whole stack to share with you. Type of fabric, learning how to pick fabrics that we can then stitch into, following the printed pattern. So I went through my stash and I found that I had this vintage sheet, and I thought, oh, that's got some really nice flowers. I'm not going to get it all in the picture, but I have this 20 by 20 inch cotton cloth napkin, and I cut a piece of the sheet and I just started stitching. So you can see this is what the flower looked like, and then this is what I did with the stitching. So I'm working on this. Maybe it'll be a pillow cover when it's all done. And then we'll get to that. This was one of the first ones I started and finished, and I just have to finish the back of the hoop. But I had this fabric with the bird and all these things, and I just embellished the bird with a whole bunch of different stitching. I used pearl cotton threads number 5 for most of this. And so we have some herringbone stitch, some my version of short and long stitch, and French knots, and just a little bit of everything's in there. A lot of straight stitch, pretty simple, nothing too hard. This is a chain stitch, so or the lazy daisy as people call it. So this was fun. This one I'll be hanging in my house. And then this one I was working on has a beehive. I'm going to be adding a 3-dimensional bee over top of this printed bee. It's like a black-brown pattern. So I know there's some other little bees in the pattern, but I'm just going to add a 3D so that when it's hung up, see that. And then this one was, again, me just trying different stitches. So I just decided to do a stitch sampler, and I cut this motif, this leaf motif, out of a piece of fabric, and I'll share that large piece with you in the video later. And I just took all kinds of pink threads and different thicknesses and weights and started stitching. And I've done a bunch of French knots, chain stitch, I did some weaving, some blanket stitch on top of the fabric, a woven rose. I think it's called a spider web rose, or woven wheel rose. I don't know. I just had fun doing all these stitches. I don't have the stitch names down. I just know what I like when I see it. So these are just some samples of things I've been working on, and I'll get reset up for sharing the fabric haul. I'll be back in a minute. Actually, I'll be back in a second.